About a year and a half ago, I made the tough decision to stop using Facebook. I realized that it had turned into this huge time sink that just required so much of my life and energy. And so much of what was going on Facebook and so many other forms of social media just had got to the point where it felt like it was toxic, just an unending source of fake news and echo chambers. And I was also a little frustrated with just the sheer repetitiveness of it. It seemed like the same things kept occurring, reappearing over and over again. But most of all, I felt like I just couldn't keep up. I had, 700 or 800 different friends on Facebook. Some of them were close friends, some of them were family, some of them were just acquaintances. Some of them were people that I hadn't seen since I was in high school. And I don't understand the Facebook algorithm, but somehow I kept seeing what people were having for dinner. People who I haven't seen in 30 years, and frankly, I didn't care. And then there were so many people who were posting really important milestones in their lives, and I was missing them. And they were telling me afterward that they were a little hurt that I hadn't noticed or commented. And I just decided I can't keep up, and it just isn't a smart or efficient way for me of keeping in touch with people. But in the last few weeks, as we've been doing so much online, on Facebook Live and on our East Shore page and our Friends of East Shore group on Facebook, I've been a little more involved. I've actually been going through and looking at what people are doing. And I've noticed that there seems to be two different kinds of people in the midst of all of this coronavirus outbreak. There are the people who take it very seriously and the people who seem to think that it's a giant hoax. Now, among the people who are taking it really seriously, I've noticed that some of them are seeing this as a watershed moment, as kind of defining or expressing their theology. I had a conversation with my mother the other day, and she said, I keep asking God why. I keep asking, why has he sent us this? And please, God, help me understand. Now, that's not really how I see God as working, but I know that this is really important to my mother. She really sees God as this omnipotent father figure who watches over all of us and does everything with a reason, and that God controls absolutely everything. And so I asked her, do you think God lies to us? And she said, no, absolutely not. God would never lie to us. He's absolutely in control, and he does what needs to happen, and if we listen, we'll hear the reasons. And then I asked her, do you think that the Bible is true? Do you think that it is absolutely inerrant? And she said, yes, it is God's word. And I said, well, let's think about Noah and the ark. And after God destroyed the world, and he tried to do that several times before that point, but at the end of it, he said, I will never do this again to my people. And so if this virus is a methodology for destroying the world because we've taken a wrong direction, then God would be lying to us. He would be going back on his word. And that made sense to her. It doesn't change her theology, but I think that made sense to her, and it made her start thinking about this a little bit differently, that maybe this isn't the end, that God doesn't have control over this. Or maybe he does, but it's something she'll never understand. And maybe she's a little bit more okay with that. But I've noticed that there are people who are taking this seriously, who feel like this is it. This is Armageddon. This is the end times. Chaos is reigning and nothing matters, so this is the time for us to grab all that we can. And for people who call themselves preppers, people who are preparing for the time that they call the doo-doo hitting the fan, only they use more colorful language, this is it. This is the time that they've been preparing for. So they're grabbing as much as they can. They're hoarding the toilet paper and the bleach and the firearms and ammunition to protect the things that they've hoarded. And I think the thing with us, with Unitarian Universalists, is that we are taking this seriously. We know that this virus is something that we can all take responsibility for in doing what so many are calling flattening the curve. Not so much to prevent any of us from actually getting the virus, because we probably will all mostly get the virus. But the point is, in flattening the curve, is to minimize the overwhelming effects of it and stretching them out so that the hospitals don't get overwhelmed, so that the people who do get sick will be spread out a little bit and we'll be able to actually care for them so that we can save lives and hopefully minimize the devastating effects that a massive crush on our hospitals could create. And the thing is that we know that the virus is neutral. It's not an ethical statement or a moral statement about how we're living. It isn't affecting some people more than others because they're more deserving of getting the virus and potentially dying. It's a virus, and this virus is working the way all viruses work. It's not mindful of things like national boundaries, state borders. It doesn't care about race or age or ethnicity or theological perspectives. It's just seeking a host. We know that this isn't something that's been created by an omnipotent creator, destroyer with the hopes of destroying many of us. And we know that this matters. And what matters about it isn't the fact that it's happening. What matters is how we respond to it. And that's why we're taking it seriously. That's why we are doing what we can to avoid the spread of this virus. That's why we're meeting virtually instead of in person. We don't have this idea that we can still gather, and because we're gathering in the name of this omnipotent creator, God will take care of us. We're staying apart so that we can do what we can to help one another, to help all of us in this unprecedented time. We're staying apart physically in order to preserve the good. So I want to thank you all for taking this seriously, for living out your Unitarian Universalist values, for taking this time to reflect. I'm especially grateful for Megan and May and Jared and Jerry for sharing their reflections with us, for sharing a bit of their lives. And I want to invite you to consider sharing a reflection with us next week or in the weeks to come. I know the times that you get to share with each other in this space is what matters most to all of us. May it be so.